So 4 weeks ago yesterday, I went with Mike, a contractor, and Russ to look at a property that has some road drainage issues going on to it, meeting a contractor there to get a visual look of what he wanted, the work he wanted done. Upon arrival, just before noon, there were 2 dogs across the street. Noticed they were barking, didn't think much about them. Walking towards the other 3 that were already there, and before I even reached their group, the female, or at that point, the white pit bull came across the road, barking, growling, but not real close to me. Kind of turned and left, went back across the road. I went down and once I literally got down to them, 2 pit bulls came across the road, a brindle and a white one, acting very aggressive, getting a lot closer this time. At that point, I was yelling at the owner. Also, I called 911 and to notify the state police to get them on scene to assist. In the meantime, Mike was bitten in the hand. The owner came over eventually and retrieved the female on leash, but as soon as he got the female on leash, the female ran behind him and took off in front of him, taking his legs out from underneath him and wrapping the leash around his legs. Luckily, he was able to maintain control of the leash and not lose it and lose that dog, while the other 3 people were theoretically pinned in the woods behind trees using branches as defense. I was in the yard area of the property trying to lead the male dog back around to the owner to allow him to gain control of that dog through the collar, which never occurred. The dog bit me on my right calf, causing about a 6.5, 7-inch laceration. Could have required stitches if I wanted them, but he said, you're gonna end up with a scar one way or the other. I declined the stitches. The contractor notified me, or let me know that there was a firearm in his vehicle and where said firearm was. I retrieved it. As I went to retrieve it, the dog came up behind me. So there was another perceivable delay in action. Once I retrieved the firearm, I notified the owner, who was still laying on the ground at the time, that I'm going to shoot your dog if you cannot get it. And his exact words were, shoot it. At this point, the dog was 12 to 15 feet away. I did not feel an immediate threat at that very moment. We also had an audience that were being of no assistance at that point. So I was fearful of shooting a dog at 15, 20 feet that wasn't that close, that wasn't a immediate aggression. The dog charged me and I fired 1 round and to its head. Unfortunately, I did not dispatch the dog. I shot it through the snout. It squealed, ran back home. We were able to collect ourselves, and about a minute and a half later, state police arrived on scene. And then about 20 minutes after that, we gave our statements, and Mike had left already at that point, and to seek medical attention and everything. I know I posted my story on Facebook as well, not as that much detail, and those dogs have been commented on a number of times through my post and instant messaging and text messaging that's not the first time they've been aggressive, first time they have attacked, but not the first time they've shown aggression. The neighbor had been pinned inside her car at times coming home from work, that she was fearful to get out of her vehicle. I've had another resident stop me and say that he now walks a different path just to avoid that intersection altogether of Olive Drive and 3rd Street. That there's been visual of dogs chasing kids on bikes in that area. What really scares me the most is the meeting prior to that at that property. I could not attend because I was out of town, and another council member attended, and if that would have been the case this time, I don't know what the outcome would have been, and that scares me to death. I've talked to The dog warden, I've talked to the state police a number of times. At this point, there's been no charges filed with the exception of a non-moving violation of failure to license. I talked to the state police as recently as this past Saturday. So, yeah, the dogs were verified to have their rabies shots December 12th of last year, so they are in date. And that was actually, he had 2 moving violations because he has to provide the documentation even though the state police had verified it. And when he showed up to the court case, he had the documentation, so they threw that one out and only gave him the license violation. I did request those dogs be quarantined just to be safe. They were quarantined and returned to the owner. I have made a couple trips in my vehicle down around that area, and the dogs are still on the same type of lead apparatus, which is just a chain, just a plain chain with a metal hasp. There's no fencing being installed, there's nothing. I also walk every morning at 5 o'clock, and I can hear them outside at times, and even as recently as yesterday morning. Did not hear anything this morning, but something needs to be done. Whether I've talked to the state police, whether the council does it, whether the council goes to their solicitor and makes a statement and have that solicitor to petition the state police. But there was 2 people that were attacked. I'm not going to speak to Mike's injuries. Mine were superficial at most, with the exception I had complications with my surgery that was non-related to the dog attack. That prolonged my recovery and also prolonged the surgery. So that is the absolute truth. I've heard a few rumors as recent or as early as 3 hours afterwards that I unloaded an entire magazine at the dog, which I was shocked to hear that, but that is the absolute truth on my side. Mike, would you like to add anything?
No, you hit it on the head. Yeah.
That's the reason for having the mics give you their rendition, so you hear it from them. You don't need to worry about rumors. This is the way it happened, and I think I can speak for the entire council and all of you in that none of us want to just slide this under the carpet, so to speak, and let it go. We have some control as to what we do, and probably the first thing is for our attorney to direct us. She does, the work that she does has to do with boroughs and townships. So she's very knowledgeable. That is her line of what she does as an attorney. I think that we probably just need to discuss what everyone would be less concerned. The sooner we do it, the better. We don't want to take a chance on another attack. Many people who have worked with animals, it seems like once a dog has bitten, you kind of have to be super careful for forevermore. So we need to protect our neighbors and our children and whoever happens to be in proximity of them. There's a whole list of things once a dog has attacked that they can require them to do, which is fencing, which is tying with something that cannot be broken, never on leash, off property, possibly muzzled if off property. There's just a whole list of things. What we need to do though is, if any of you have any suggestions that you would be concerned that we would maybe not go far enough in taking care of this, I think as a council and both Mikes who were attacked, I think we should press charges.
Agreed. And if I could add one thing, all those people that commented with similar acts of aggression, not one of them was reported to the state police or the dog warden. Without any documentation of that, there's no history. It's all in the past now. So if you see or encounter on your own, whether it's those dogs, and I hate to say it, there's 3 more pit bulls that on my street that I see running loose occasionally. If you see them off leash, there is leash laws. Take a picture where it's safe to do so, but notify the dog warden, which, like I said, Matthew Patrick, or the state police if you feel that there's a huge threat. So.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Can I ask a
for-
question?
I know for a fact they killed chickens
Okay,
on my next street right above where I am.
Do
Right,
you mind
that was one of the comments on my post, and like I said, but it was unreported.
I didn't hear you say anything.
Yeah, I didn't go into detail on a lot of the
can you
comment.
document that,
She
Can you put that into writing?
She can probably tell you,
the dates,
She's seen
what
the
happened,
chicken.
what she lost,
yeah,
and sign it, and date it, okay?
have her do it.
This might be a
Send it
question
directly
for
to the dog
you.
warden.
Are you comfortable
Okay.
putting in you usually report on these meetings. Are you comfortable putting in that article what the dog warden's email is or phone number is?
Oh,
Because
sure.
if people have it right in front of them, they're more likely to report something.
And just send it right through to the dog warden
Yep.
as soon as possible.
I mean, Rick and I have watched these dogs many times out running loose.
Yeah.
We don't go up our drive anymore, we go up Olive Drive. We sat in the car halfway up the driveway and just watched what was going on. People do not have control of those dogs at all. They get away, I mean, and they bark all the time. One of these days, it's gonna be Ethel Reed out there, who's in her 80s, hanging her laundry out. So it's not a matter of if, it's a
It's
matter
when.
of when.
That's what I'm
I
hearing,
want those dogs gone.
What I'm afraid of is some little kid's gonna get it.
exactly.
Then we're all
There's
in
no
trouble.
one, yeah, there's no one.
I hate
back
to say,
on
I hate
that
to say it,
street.
but my son and his girlfriend and their 4 kids are looking at buying Jeff Glosser's house.
Wow.
I mean, that's right there. I mean, that's
Yeah,
my
I know
son, my
where Jeff
grand.
lives, yeah.
And you know what, my feeling is, if this isn't taken care of, it's gonna, you said there's more pit bulls in the area, there's more this, in a residential area, there's no place for them.
This isn't the first time they've killed chickens either. We've had the dog law enforcement down at our house twice.
Twice.
Yeah, they killed the chickens right over
It
there.
wasn't those 2 dogs, it was
It was
other
other
dogs.
dogs.
Mhm.
So there's a dog problem.
They contacted the owner, they went down and told them, he didn't do nothing about it.
And what makes this so immediate, where we have to make a decision, because Mike had a firearm in the afternoon, summertime.
Yep.
People who walk our streets, kids who live, 5 kids literally live next door. I mean, it might get to the point where somebody gets bit, and you know, there's a lot of people with guns in it, and they're gonna take the law in their own hands, and we're gonna have guns blasted around here.
We're gonna have
I don't know
guns.
about
I mean,
one.
that's a major line.
We don't sit outside anymore without a gun, cause
I
we're
don't
right down
blame
the
you.
street from us.
Yes.
I don't blame you.
Dennis, would you like to
I just
add?
had a question and then a comment. Were these dogs let off leash or did they break off leash?
They were not, I did not see anything that was broken, but I cannot answer that statement, honestly.
I
don't
could
know.
surmise something, because when I walked up the street, cause I have property down the street. I saw them tied to 2 trees up right outside the house. And they were barking like crazy. I paid them no attention. I took the left onto the Early's property. And I saw the owner standing in the doorway, and he's an older gentleman, doesn't have very strong capabilities. And I saw him taking the dogs toward the door. So the only thing I could think is that when he was unlocking them to bring them in the house, he lost control of them.
I witnessed that one evening.
I know that I
Chasing
went
around
down
with
by
a
it.
flashlight.
Walked down by and there's a little kid on a bike, couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old, that just by handholds there right around the corner. But my comment, or
Put 'em down.
what I wanted to say was, I heard a comment about there's 3 other pit bulls. They shouldn't be running loose, and no dog should be running loose. But I'm a trainer over at Clarion Canine Obedience, and we have pit bulls come in there, Staffordshire Terriers, the dogs are supposed to be fighting dogs. And very rarely is it the dog, it's the owner that doesn't have control of them, that didn't train them, and just letting them get away with stuff until it builds up to the point where there's an attack, like there was. But I just wanna say, it's not pit bulls, we have them, and it's not just the dog.
Oh, I said all along, it's the, 95% of it's the owner.
Yeah.
I mean, my uncle has a pit bull, and the only thing I can
Well, I
complain
think
about that
these
dog is it
ones
wiggles
are
too much. What's that?
I said, I think these ones ought to be put down.
Once they've attacked it.
Once they
worries me
attack,
not
they're
to.
gonna attack again.
Well, and they're out there, they're tied, and they're wrapped around that tree,
Oh,
half the
yeah.
time as tight as can be. There's no water, there's no shade, there's no, they're not taken care of. It's, there's craters in the yard when they're digging.
Even if you do something under the township's nuisance ordinance, the key is you need the documentation. Because either way, you need the documentation for the state police, the dog law, the township enforcement. If people see it happening, they need to report it, document it.
Take pictures,
Take
record it
pictures.
on their phone,
Yeah, if that
anything
dog-
that we could use as ammunition to go and have this.
If you
somebody
choose,
take care of it.
any avenue that you choose to pursue will require documentation to.
Yes.
What is the law for dog bites? I heard that it was like the second bite, that's it.
For what I was told by the state police, is 2
Right.
violent attacks will automatically deem destruction. 1 violent attack that causes severe bodily injury, severe permanent bodily injury, or broken bones could lead to destruction.
So they have to wait till someone.
Yeah.
And
puts
that's
tremendous-
exactly what I'm yelling, I'm literally
I mean,
having an argument with the
that's
dog catcher, and I'm
crazy.
like, I'm sorry, I know you're doing your job, but this is not right.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Whenever it's
That's
already
on our
deemed.
shoulders. A child gets killed, a child
That's
gets
right.
maimed, anyone, but, a child would be defenseless.
Oh,
We
my.
have 2 big men here who were,
Have
That's
they
right.
cited him for having dogs off leash at all?
Nope, not that I'm aware of. Like I said, I talked to someone at the state police on Saturday, and the charge, what he saw, the only charges that were filed were a lack of license, non-moving violation.
I think so, we push it. We go
Don't
directly
you
to the
guys,
state
shouldn't you
police.
guys put charges?
No, that's personally, yeah.
Especially you got bit and the other gentleman,
Both of you press charges.
right?
I'll call the state police tomorrow morning as president of council to explain to them exactly how it went at our meeting and what the townspeople are asking for. And the first thing is for them to be arrested for having the dogs off leash and having dangerous animals not properly contained or trained.
So I heard a rumor, so his son, who, 3-4 weeks previous to this incident was living with him, was arrested for a gun charge, discharging a gun in Clarion.
That's cool.
So, what I heard, and I don't know if I remember right when I was leaving the scene that day, was somebody say, I thought he said, those are my son's dogs.
He did.
I thought he
Now,
did.
you're 100%
So
accurate.
is that why we're not getting true charges against these people? I mean, so already he was passing the
Whose
buck.
name are they licensed in now? Now that they're licensed?
I don't know, I never.
Well, they
got-
weren't licensed. It's
But now that they are licensed,
That-
that's the ownership of the
So
dog.
I
That's
assume,
whose
I
ownership.
heard the son's still incarcerated. Clarion
what I'm-
County.
Correct.
So he probably put it in his name.
But if you have custodial control of an animal, you're responsible
Correct.
for maintaining it.
Okay,
I-
see,
I-
that was where I was gonna lead to, because, some people, well, it's my son's dog, my kid's dog.
Yes.
And so you try to set up something that's gonna bypass people taking, shirking responsibility.
I don't think that's something I'll put them down. Okay.
What about the puppies that were there? Cause there were 4 puppies too.
Yeah,
I have no knowledge of the puppies. I know, other than hearing about them, I have no
Yeah, they
I have no
were-
firsthand
they
knowledge.
were over to my renter's place digging their flower right up. So they went over and told them about it, to get them out of there. That's the pups.
And they're out unleashed.
And honestly,
They're not on leash.
if your dogs have attacked people and you're still staking them out in your front yard for
Yeah.
everybody to see, what does that tell you? Gee.
Well, if everyone would please document and send as soon as possible through the dog catcher, that would be helpful. If you have other
Who's
neighbors.
gonna
Hey,
carry
Rex Muncy is a private eye now, maybe we should hire him.
Who's gonna carry a camera with them?
Yeah, if you have neighbors, friends, other people who have had experiences that you're aware of, please ask them to do the same. I will call the Pennsylvania State Police tomorrow, Michael already has, have you, Michael?
Mike's been doing all the
Okay,
talking
right.
with the state.
And the dog catcher, and tell them both what this was. I'm finally on vacation this week, so there's time to do a few things. And we'll move forward in as fast a way, and I'll express to them our fear, our worry for our other townspeople. It's bad enough that 2 people have already been hurt. We don't wanna take a chance on the next one being somebody who is, less able to get away, and that could be tomorrow. So we can hope and pray that can get this taken care of in a quick manner and move forward to protect everybody. And if they were to comply with every letter of the law that they require, that's required once you have a dog that has bit someone, then we would have no objection, no reason to object. But I don't see that happening.
Mike, that was Tuesday that happened, right?
The day before the council meeting.
Because Sunday, we came home from church and I saw the puppies out there and I told Rick, I
Yeah,
said,
you mentioned,
we're gonna have a problem with these dogs.
yeah, when you showed up after the fact, you mentioned that there was puppies, like, I had not, and I've been down past there twice in a vehicle, and I haven't seen puppies since.
How old are the puppies?
Oh, they're old enough to,
Are they?
Well, it's been
Yeah,
4 weeks
yeah.
since this happened, so, and they were digging flowers prior to that,
yeah,
so
they were good
I was
size.
just-
they have to be, don't they go at 8 or 9 weeks?
Oh,
8 weeks they
Yeah.
I know they chased my renter in the house and she
Were-
was right.
But were they the white ones puppies, or were
The
they?
big dog.
So, yeah, so they could have been at any age at that point, I mean, cause if they were puppies.
Well, they were pretty good size, and that was just
Yeah.
2 days before those dogs attacked
Okay.
you guys, so.
And there's 4 or 5 puppies.
There's 4 we saw for sure. Somebody said there were 5, but
Yeah,
we
that's
saw
what I
4.
heard there was 5.
Okay. Anybody have any suggestions or anything else you would like to add?
I would just like to add that there's a quick reaction to Mike, that he solved a lot of problems there, because if he would not have done what he did, there'd have been more bitten, guaranteed, because we couldn't get away from him.
No, I'll be honest with you, Russ, I mean, I really
I
tried
know.
not to. I mean, I had a lot of other things going on personally with my own dog at the time. But for those that don't know, I'm a certified NRA instructor, and I'm also a instructor of a class called Refuse to be a Victim. And in that class, we teach a lot on situational awareness and preparing and planning. And without that training, I don't know if I would have been, I think more panic would have set in rather than trying to keep my head straight. And like I said, no offense, I'm not, but
Yeah.
I don't know your yard. I mean, is
Yeah.
there a ditch that I didn't know about? Cause I was retreating a lot backwards.
Mhm.
Was there a ditch, was there a gopher hole, was there a branch that I didn't see? Cause the last thing I wanted to do is end up on the ground. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the last place I would ever consider. But, thankfully, it ended the way it did. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, we both could have got, for lack of a better word, we could have got mauled rather than bitten.
Right.
But thank you, Russ, I do appreciate that. And
If anybody has anything further when you go home and you think about that you want me to add, to talk to them tomorrow, my cell number is 229-6358. You're welcome to use that. Oftentimes I walk away from something wishing I had said something else, so the door is open
But if they're running loose, you should report it.
immediately.
oh yeah, definitely. If
Definitely.
Take pictures.
Yeah. okay,
pictures,
report-
phone call,
Report to the state police or somebody immediately before something happens.
Right.
What was your name, sir? What's your name? No, what's your name? I'd rather not be in the paper.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to add?
229-6358.
Thank you all very much for coming, for supporting us, and us'ns will support the town as best that we can also. So we'll get moving on this. You are welcome to stay for the meeting. It's wonderful to have a group of concerned citizens at a meeting. We don't often get this, so you're welcome to stay as long as you want, or you're welcome to, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that, but you are welcome.
What did you say your name was? I didn't catch it.
Dennis Bundy, B-U-N-D.